Hayes Medical Center sharing a statement about the diversity of its staff following a number of reported resignations and concerns raised by physicians.
A lawsuit filed by Dr. Jared Grove, a general surgeon who resigned this month, says HaysMed has lost at least a dozen physicians and other staff members in recent years. In the lawsuit, Grove writes that he began to notice certain troubling aspects of the treatment of HaysMed staff. Other staff members who resigned have shared similar concerns online. The hospital's also facing financial concerns. A report earlier this year from the American Hospital Directory showed HaysMed had an annual loss of $5.6 million as of June 2023. Our Fact Finder team heading to Hays will give you a deeper look at the situation there that hospital's facing. That story we'll have for you next week.